What is going on, guys? It's the Destroyer Blind Faith here to bring you the biggest Ranger patch we could possibly get. Okay, it's that simple. It's the biggest buff Ranger could have possibly gotten. Last time Ranger started returning, now we are actually in the game's meta. It's that simple. I think the only thing that's really going to affect how effective we're going to be is the fact of the Wiz Witches and whether or not they're going to re-roll to something different or they're going to stick on what they have. And honestly, because PA is still a thing, they're probably going to stick on what they have. So what does that mean? It means that the people that play Ranger is what's going to make or break this whole patch, more or less. But let's get into what exactly makes this patch so special in comparison to the last big Ranger patch. Okay. So, starting off, let's talk about the fact that we have Jhin skills. Now, Jhin is basically the primary power buffs, or the Second Awakening, the actual Second Awakening, not this Rabam stuff, the Second Awakening, okay? So how exactly do you access this? You would go here, and on the right here, I was actually looking for it originally because I didn't see it right away. It's right down here. The Absolute Extreme Charging Wind, otherwise known as Shotgun 3.0, because you have your 1.0, your 2.0, now you got your 3.0 basically. The scaling on this is ridiculous. The hit damage on the old one was 260% times 11, with the extra hit damage of 597% times 3. The new one is 754% times 11 and 1524% times 3 on the extra hit damage. Yeah. Can you see the scaling increase there? It is huge. It is ridiculously big. Like, it's... People are saying it's been 30%. I'd even go as far to say it's more around the 35 to 40% range of extra damage you were getting from this. And combining this with the Will of the Wind, which I don't think it gives more armor shred, but if it does, that's even better than I thought. No, it doesn't. It just gives more damage. But that's the thing. When you combine it with the armor shred, you melt people. I've been two-shotted and one-shotted by Rangers already that have the AP, okay? So this doesn't mean we need less AP. We're still very gear-reliant needing AP, but this means that we can still do very, very well with less AP. And I know so from speaking from experience here that when I'm gonna be honest, guys, I went for Tet today 4 times, failed all of them. I have a 65 stack now, which is fine. I'm going to keep using that stack and keep playing off that stack, but right now I'm out of actual stacks because I got it back to try, and it's at 60 durability, which is awesome actually, because you know that was a bunch of attempts towards Tet and getting back to try on multiple of them first try, which is awesome, and then second try actually for one of them, which is, I mean, that's really good. You know, it wasn't a huge amount loss of money or anything. It was a really nice attempt at Tet, more or less. But when I did that, I got to Duo, and at Duo Bow, right, I think I dropped to 200 AP from 210, and lost a lot of accuracy to go with it, and I was still hitting very, very hard when I was using my shotgun, which is good to see. Like, it's really good to see. What does this mean? It means we might be able to run these evasion offhands or these Kudum, some other things at lower AP levels if you want to, but we are still glass cannons. Do not forget our role here. It's probably still best to go a Nelver or a Steel Dagger with as much AP as possible, because you got to keep in mind, the more AP you have, the quicker you're going to break blocks, and also the quicker you're going to punch through their extra DP they have. Okay, so keep that in mind when you are building your Ranger up here. Now, let's talk about the other skills I would recommend getting here, other than just, obviously, Shotgun. We have the Ultimate Evasive Shot, otherwise known as the Absolute Evasive Shot, which basically when you do a cancel animation with shotgun or Q spam or whatever, this damage has always been applying on top of that. So when you go from 234% times 2 to 585% times 3 with a critical hit rate of 100%, yeah, it actually got a critical hit rate of 100% as well, which is awesome. You basically, you know, that's more damage you're stacking on. So make sure when you guys are getting these skills, make sure you do not forget about this evasive shot here. I know the skill points overall are going to be very, very pricey. I'll show you where to take off your points if you have invested similarly to how I did, but it's definitely needed that you need this skill for sure. Okay, now let's go to the main ones you need. So shotgun, evasive shot, and then you also have absolute blasting guts, otherwise known as your Q spam. The Q spam went from 251% times 6, 930% times 1, and a critical hit rate of 100% to hit damage 907% times 2, critical hit rate 100%, and +5 accuracy rate. Yeah. 10? Is that always 10 targets? Now I need to look at this. Oh, obviously because you don't get ultimate blasting gust. That's what I'm looking at. I'm like, wait a second, it's this one. We're comparing it to this one, not this one. I was like, wait a second, that sounds weird. The crit rate sounds cool, but the damage sucks, so don't do that. So 363% times 2, 10% max HP damage to 10 max targets and a critical hit rate of 80%, accuracy 5%, to 907% times 2, critical hit rate 100%, max of 10 targets, accuracy rate of 5% as well. So the damage is still being split, but you also have a lot more damage here to work with, like when you are fighting more solo targets. However, you keep in mind, Q spam is always going to be used for that knockdown now, so spam the living crap out of this in a fight, man, and you will probably turn a fight around without even knowing you did sometimes. So moving down to the Will of the Wind. Will of the Wind went from a 339% times 10, extra hit damage 100% times 5, where now it's 847% times 10, 381% times 6. So big buff again to the actual hit damage scaling. So the more AP you get, the more this is going to scale, obviously. So make sure you guys build AP. I would still go run one red coral earring or something, but you guys want to be stacking AP as a ranger now, like 100%. If you want to be using your bow effectively, you have to do this. Another skill that is pretty good now, but is very hard to use in actual combat, is absolute penetrating wind. Now, if you use a penetrating wind cancel, which is like a kick animation cancel, you can get off quite good damage with this, but you are way less mobile than just using Q spam, so I wouldn't recommend using this unless you're maybe brawling or dueling. Then if you could throw it on, go for it. Okay, so those are the ones that I would recommend for sure. So Will of the Wind, Q spam, evasive shot, and shotgun are must-haves. Now to move on to my flavors, or my picks that I like to use. Okay, obviously you guys know I love the skill tearing arrow. It is an absolute beast if you use it correctly. It basically just debuffs the person you're fighting ridiculously, and is also AoE to go with it. So in a group fight, if you shoot that off, not only are you doing decent damage, but you're also getting off a bleed, a slow, and if you have the add-ons, you're extending those even farther. So it's definitely a good thing. You can also actually decrease or increase the caster's cast time as well with it, which is, I believe, what I have on one of the add-ons. Yeah, casting speed minus 7% for target. Yep, 7%. So it's not bad. But you can see the damage difference here. Now remember, we were using Tearing Arrow 3 because Ultimate Tearing Arrow would actually do less damage. But if you look at this now, the Tearing Arrow 3 of 213% times 7, 532% times 5, and 958 times 2, it got outmatched here. Not by a whole lot, but 344% times 7, 585% times 5, 1032% times 4. Okay, So it isn't as nearly as big of a buff as some of the other skills, but you're still getting more bleed and more damage off, and I would recommend still picking this up for sure. Alright, and the other one that I would recommend is the Descending Current, Absolute Descending Current, otherwise known as our Node War move, or the thing to destroy annexes. Put it this way, I do have footage, so I'll put that up in a second here, but basically 3 Rangers, Zerker in front of us, 340 DP I believe on the Zerker, and we basically just arrow rain down on him. Now one of the Rangers had about 220 AP with a Rosar going, the other one I'm not really sure, probably roughly the same thing, and then me around 210, and 3 arrow rains on that Zerker. The Zerker, let's just say he died pretty quick, you know, he took a lot of damage. So imagine that on annexes, and we have a new situation of Rangers being targeted by the assassin classes to make sure that this doesn't happen. Okay, like I said, it all depends, Rangers' success all depends on what happens with Wizwitch. If they lose Protective Area, that would be a huge thing, and I think that that would definitely push some people towards the Ranger role, or towards some other different roles to get out of this whole one class meta that we're currently still kind of sitting in, with the Wizwitch being the dictator more or less, into something a little more out there. Now, it's still going to be pretty good. Like, if you can get a lot of Rangers doing this move, annexes are going to die real quick as long as the Rangers are safe while doing this, so just guard your Rangers while they shoot over a fence and just break down the annexes. It's going to be really, really strong. However, getting enough Rangers is the problem, and I guess that's the thing. Would you rather play a Wizwitch or a Ranger? That's what people got to decide. Okay. Now, let's talk about how exactly I actually achieved these skill points. Obviously, I have a high skill point, so this is not going to be the easiest thing for everyone, and keep in mind that a lot of these skills are actually only attainable at level 60, so you're going to have to actually grind to get the absolute skills. Now, I believe Shotgun might actually be less than level 60. I'm not 100% sure on that. I don't think it even says. No, it doesn't. But its skill points required was 56, I believe, which is a lot of skill points for one skill, period. So where do you get the skill points from? I went to my Awakening tree, and I completely removed Cold Blade. Now, Cold Blade, as a lot of you guys know, is decent when you go into, like, grinding areas or something and use it to heal up on someone or something, or use it for accuracy, but the accuracy rate isn't worth it. It's just not worth it in turn, so I would recommend just completely removing Cold Blade from your arsenal. And taking those skill points and putting them elsewhere into the things you need. Now, there's also the other thing you can take away from, which is the passive, and also the Call of the Earth. Now, I completely removed my Call of the Earth as well. Again, it's only a little bit of, it's 9% accuracy on both of those skills. It's really not a huge deal. 9% is like nothing, especially when most of this damage buff isn't even about accuracy at all. It's just AP, 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 stack the AP, get the scaling, and you're going to do damage. So that's Cold Blade, and also your passive. Only remove this passive if you are going to completely pot up while grinding, because this is a complete passive that is completely meant for PvE. So you can see I have it up, but that's because I had skill points remaining when I was done with everything. And I really didn't know what else to put it into. There wasn't anything else I wanted. I also took away my pinpoint that I still had. That was I think it was at pinpoint 3, because I used to use it as my short range knockdown. But there's no need to do that anymore when Q spam just automatically gets it. So I took away those points and then locked it as well. But yeah, that's all the skill tree stuff. Now let's talk about what Ranger still needs to essentially completely be in the meta. Okay, the main thing is Wizwitch still needs to lose PA, or it needs to be nerfed or something, because the issue in sieges and stuff is that Ranger will not be picked up simply because Wizwitch will still be much safer to play, and obviously they can just PA each other all day long. It's a PA push. That's what the game is right now as far as siege and stuff goes. Now, the other thing that Ranger kind of needs, other than that, even if they were to remove this, is that this game has way too much crowd control in it, okay? And because of all this crowd control, Ranger very badly still needs that Rabam skill, because that Rabam skill will be how you can still contribute to big sieges and bigger fights without being completely up in the fray. Because the issue is, if you want to be completely up in the fray, you can, but the issue is that we're so easy to knock down when we're going back and forth with Q spam. They aim for us all the time. It's not hard to do. Now, if the number of Rangers obviously increased on that backline shooting arrows, it'd be a lot different story. But right now, it's still very easy to pick off a Ranger in the backline. So any type of CC reduction would help, Rabam skill being the main one that we have to wait on. Hopefully it'll be in the next few patches. But until then, that's gonna do it for this video, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.